And good afternoon, folks. Welcome today, bring you guys another one. Hope you guys are having a great day. We're doing some laser creations today. No tanking, just doing some stuff with the laser. You can see in the background all around me right now that the board is set up. Before we get into it and everything else, that we just wanted to show a couple of things off. Me. All right. Now, what we're going to be doing is making a laser creation from, well, hopefully you can see it right here. Actually, let me change the color to a neutral. Better. Okay, you can see there's a white shadow box right here. Yeah, I gotta leave it at an angle so you can see it's white shadow box, and we already taped the inside of the box with this. And the reason why we taped the inside box for us today, because to make it now, since this is white and shiny, it tends to not want to laser. It's one of the things about the laser, it doesn't like white. It doesn't like white at all. Reflectivity off it and everything else of that makes it so it doesn't want to print correctly and everything else of that. So this is one of the things that, again, when you do it, it really messes stuff up. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go back to normal view, and we're going to hopefully show you this getting laser. Now again, this is already pre-painted it, already stained it and everything else of that. Oops, sorry. So I've already did that already. That's one of the things you do ahead of time and everything else, so you can have the creation already ready. So that's what we are doing right this second. Again, we wanted to make sure that everything is correct. So again, this is, I get these from Michael's, I get these from all different types of places and everything else that, so I can make my creations on everything. Whatever has the best sale on the shadow boxes that I have, and everything else, you can see this is the one you can hang up with via the string, or it actually has a metal bracket back here. Hopefully you can see it. So you can see it correctly. So that's what we like to deal with and everything else of that. So yeah. I'm not sure why it's saying I'm streaming while it tanks, which I'm not streaming while it tanks. So let me save. It may not like the title, so let me go in. Let me just log out of it, because again, I want to make sure that I have the correct title and everything. So I looked at it before it said it had the right title, but just because it says something doesn't necessarily mean it is what it is. Channel, and let's see if it has the right name. And it's still saying I'm streaming World of Tanks. Okay, all right, let me edit it from here. For some odd reason, it's still not giving me the right name. It still says World of Tanks, and I'm streaming, and I'm not streaming. I've already changed it inside of the thing, but yeah, that's not what we're actually streaming. So let's see if we can change that. Yeah. Go to my thing, because it's showing the wrong name on it, which for some odd reason, when I change it inside of the thing, it never shows right. So give me 1 second, folks. Sorry, technical issues. I'm going to change the name of the to craft to be makers and crafts. It should be right, but it's not showing right. It's showing World of Tanks, which, no, it actually does say the right title. Huh. Update this stuff. Okay, just redoing it again anyway. It might have just not updated here. Yep, it does say it right. Okay, so again, yeah, you can see the shirt and everything else, so that you can tell how much I love my Batman, I love my soups. So yeah, I got all three. But anyway, so again, this is what we're going to be lasering and everything else. So again, we're going to go over to the laser right now. We're going to set it up again. This is shadow box painted white. You can see that it has a yellowish tint to it because again, it has this tape inside of it. So let's go over to the actual laser. Now, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to hear me correctly from there. I do have the audio set to over there, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's working the way, well, intended. So let's go over there. If you don't hear me correctly and something, everything else, you know, I'm just gonna set this up and everything else today, and then we'll talk after that point. All right, we're back. Now, it should be set up the way it's supposed to be and everything else, so that hopefully everything is correct. Now, again, it took me 3 tries to get it in the right place. You've seen that it literally did a border around it to make sure it's actually lined up. You definitely want to make sure you do that to make sure it is accurately lined up. Now, even though I have hash marks where it should be at and everything else, that the board can be, you can see where my board is and everything else. That if I don't have it exactly lined up on the edge, it can be off a little bit. So that's something that it causes me a bit of trouble and everything else when I'm lining it up and everything else of that. But that's the first thing that you have to do. That's the reason why I have it set up so it actually has that border around it. Let me turn on, I forgot to turn on the arrow on that side. I forgot to turn on the air hood. I have air on the far side that basically it cuts into it to make sure that the air is basically, since I'm doing it inside the house, you definitely want to have something. And I do have the windows open and everything else of that, so you don't have to worry about carcinage and everything else. And I have the filter that I have actually has charcoal to it, so you're looking at me inscribing it right here. Now again, this is something that I do on my own. I make these things. It's something that it's easy to do once you figure out how to do it. And what we're going to do right now is show you how we actually do this. All right. So while the laser is going, we're going to go to our other camera. And you'll still see the laser in the background going and everything else, so that while this is going on. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to display capture, and you'll see the laser in, well, nope, sorry, that corner over there, and you'll see it's going, making the design. Now, what I made was essentially what's sitting right here. Let me lock this, and you'll see that oops, sorry. I should have had that where it's locked on top, of course. So what you're seeing right now is this is what I'm making right now. This is something that, you know, is easy to do once you have it figured out. Here, so you can still see the laser. Okay, now, when you first started this thing, when you first seen the laser pop up, you seen there was a line going around the whole thing. Now, to do that line, again, basically I just grab the box. Now I'm going to show it right next to this one so I can just make it right next to it. And basically I just grab the box like this, and what you do is you measure your actual box, how big it's going to be, and then you just basically put the box in. I mean, it's pretty easy at that point to shoot the boxes, and you can change that color down here to black because that's my border color. That's the color that I have the box and everything else of that. Now again, you can see right here that what your width is and everything else, and you see mine is unlocked. Now, if I go to the original box, that's on this side right here, click on pick. I forgot you have to click the pick first. You'll see it's supposed to be 107 by 107. So again, I can click on this box here since I know what it's supposed to be. Click on 107, oops, 107 by 107. That makes the box. Now again, I can push the box over to where it's supposed to be inside of the line and everything else. So that, again, that's your first line. Now again, I have this on a very fast speed with very little power, so that way it doesn't make any cuts into the wood. It just draws the outline of it. Now again, there's two ways of having this done. You can have it hooked to the machine, to your computer, and it's done directly, or you can do it via the USB. You stick it into your machine and you load it onto the card, and then you take it over to your unit. Now, since mine is technically is a 3D printer that I've made work as a laser, that I attach to everything so that it makes an attachment to it for that. That's what I'm working with. Now, it's easier if you actually make it so you can do the connections directly and everything else, because you control it. You can do a lot of things much faster, and you can frame it easier and everything else. So that since I'm not doing it, I'm showing you the other way. Okay, now you can put anything you want inside of this section right here. So you can click on import. And what you can do is for that, you can import a vector inside of there. We're going to import the vector. Again, this is the vector, that graphic that I had. Now, getting a this is quite easy. You can do it with any picture. You can grab to any picture and you go from PNG to SVG. If you do that on the web and everything else, there's a lot of free sites that actually do it, and it'll do the conversion for you. So that way there you can resize it any way you like without it messing up, without it being not the way you want it. So again, that's the way I do it and everything else of that. So once you have your graphic, you put it into place, and it's really simple. And we're going to enlarge this and everything else so that once you have the graphic in place, you can see that you can align it inside of the box. Now, again, your box is your inside area of whatever you are actually engraving. And that's the best can say it. This is what you're engraving. So again, once you put it inside it, you can drag it in. Now you can see it's a little bit too far down here. So basically, you just gotta move it around. As long as it's inside of this box, you know that it'll actually print. Now you can see that all the way around. It's a little bit smaller this way, so we're gonna move it over just a tick. And now everything fits inside of the box correctly. Boom. Next part done. Now, each name, you want to have it on its own line, meaning that everything that you want to type in, that you want to make, you basically want to have it at its own speed so you can control each part of it individually. And I'm just going to show you why. Okay, so we're going to zoom out. So you say this one says wash your hands. And we're going to actually put this one different. We're going to put brush. Now, once we have that, we're going to click on it. And again, as long as it's individual, we didn't change the color. Unfortunately, we want to make sure that this one is going to be blue. Just click on it to be blue. Now, the reason why you want them different. So you see the size that I have this right here. I want to make this bigger, but I want to be able to make it bigger without messing with the size of the other ones. So if I do it like this, put it just a little bit higher, over just a bit, like that. And then we can make this right about here. And again, we want to make sure we zoom in. We don't want these touching. You can make them touch if you wish to, but a little bit of space inside it would be just enough where I like it and everything else. And again, now you can fit inside it. Now, if we go down to the next one and we put in here, I'm going to change the color again. Now again, if we don't, it's going to cut out at the same time in the same speed. We don't want that. So let's that. Come on, change. Oh, I'm actually clicking on the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Once you go here, you got to go down to the bottom. Whatever you have your thing is for that one, want this on 13. Change the color. And again, the reason for that is when you go to printing, let's go to the print screen. If we don't select it like this, and we just say we want to print this area right here, and we click print, you'll see that when you play it, it prints in two separate and distinct layers. It's going to do one section first and then the other. That makes the minimum amount of red lines that you see here, so it doesn't cut into your wood and it comes out really good and everything else like that. Now I'm going to show you what happens if you don't do this. Okay, let's say if we put this back to blue, or in this case here would be my 14. If you don't do this, and again, let's highlight just this section alone. Oops, got too much of the other section. Now let's print it. Now you see how much more extra lines that you have inside of here. Now each one of these extra lines, even though it's going to be really faint, if they cross in a section too many times and everything else, like I said right here, you'll start to see basically it looks like distortion. So again, look at it how it is right now. You see all the extra distortion inside of it, and then we're going to go back into it. We're going to click on it again. I'm going to change this back to, I think this was 13. Actually, it should be 11. It's fine. Change it to 11, and again, we're going to select everything again. And let's go here. We hopefully have it. No, we still are missing. Yeah, we're missing the outer layer. Let me grab it from this side. Maybe we'll get all the outer layer this time. Yes, there it is. Okay. Now you see it has a minimum amount of redness to it and everything else to that. Now you can change this by changing the actual angle of the print. So if I go into, double click here. Now I've already shown this on the last thing and everything else to that. I always use flood fill. If you don't have flood fill attached, this is what it turns into. And every red section that you see right there, even though it's red, even though it's supposed to be the minimum power of your laser, with them being so close together and everything else that it will, and I mean it will, put a shadow on the work that you will be able to see easily. So you definitely have to go in, and again, this is just for my machine. It may be different for different people's machine and everything else like that. But again, this is shade according to power. Sorry, because that's your travel movements. That travel movement will actually show. Again, if it's a faint laser line, you won't see it. But multiple laser lines, like I said, in the same area. I've shown this on the previous video. Refer back to the video, or I'll leave a link in the description right here for that. Or sorry, down here. You'll see what happens when you leave that the way it is. So again, that's the reason why. And the other thing is time. If you do it this way here, let's change this back to flood fill. You'll see the amount of time it takes to do this shortens, because it's doing one section, basically is minimizing the movement that it's trying to do. If you don't do that, the thing just tends to want to be a hot mess, and we don't want that. All right, so and brush your, and the last one we're going to put in is teeth. All right, so we're going to go back to here, and make this larger. Now again, with them being separate, you can do each one individual. You can change one without changing the size and everything else of that. And again, we want to drag this down a little bit so it's not basically centered to the other one. We're going to change that to 13. So now when you look at it, and now you're probably looking at this and saying, hey, why does this not look like it's filled in? That's just the way it does. When it does the line and everything to fill, it will fill in the brush strokes. It doesn't look like it will. It always does. Again, you can see the print on the other side and everything else so that you can see it's actually filling in the brush strokes. It doesn't. It just doesn't look like it from here. I'm going to select, because again, this is one I've already done. Okay. So that's all you have to do. It's simple, easy, and you can see it printed out on the far side. So let's look at the prints right now. Let's close display capture. Now it doesn't look like it's filling in a lot and everything else today. Again, that's the tape and the overlay and everything else today. It's burning away the tape that's there. That's part of the thing and everything else that it will go back in and fill in. And if I don't like the way it looks and everything else that, what I would do is that, and most times I do this, and I usually hit basically, since it's not moving, I can actually hit it again since it's in the exact same position, and it will go through it and burn over it. So basically you can change this from in your settings. You can have it to do multiple passes on the first go, so it'll just do it automatically. Or you can do it the way I'm doing instead of, and I do one at a time, and I set it back to re-go through it again, just to make sure that everything printed correctly. Because sometimes on the first pass, it looks great, it looks beautiful, you don't have to do anything with it. But sometimes it doesn't look that well. So again, all right. So again, this is what I do. And again, we're going to save this one right here. as, and we're going to save this one as excuse me. Again, this is an easy thing to do and everything else. So once you have the lightburn, it's for that in the software. The hardest part is actually making the box. Again, what you need to do is, I have plenty of these boxes. I'll show you another one real quick. All right, two more boxes. Two more boxes. Now again, you can see that these are brown. They're not filled in and everything else to that. Now again, this is what I was saying. Now, if I do it without painting it white and everything else like that, you can see how well that was on the first pass. Meaning I didn't have to do two passes with this. Just on the first pass alone, it went in so deep and everything else that it was actually perfect. Now, again, the thing being is, this reason why I'm gonna have to do two passes with this one here is, well, I have paint on it, white. Then on top of that, I have 2 layers of shellac on it. And then on top of that, I have a layer of tape on it. Now again, the reason for that is everything else that, so I can, if I wanted to, I can, it's going to take out all the section. Basically, it's going to burn that section away. I can spray paint over it, meaning that while the tape is on it, I can put any color I want inside of there. And again, after that point, let it dry, take the tape off it, and then that color will be engraved in there. So let's say when it comes out the machine itself, it's automatically, again, it's going to burn it, so it's going to be black. Let's say I wanted the colors to be inside here to be blue or red or whatever color I wanted. As long as you tape it first and make sure the tape lays down real well and everything else to that, it'll burn away like it's doing that, or burn away the tape. And then you can just mist it right over it so that whatever color you want. And then you wait for it to dry, and then you can pull the tape off of it, and then the color will be set onto this. Now again, this is the reason why when I do this, so that you can do them any way you like. When you do it on natural wood, the best thing to do is to use some polyurethane. Now again, this is water-based polyurethane. Before I usually make these, if I keep it in a natural wood, what I do is I poly the whole thing. I let them dry for a day or two to make sure it's fully dry. And then once it's fully dry, then from there, I put it in the machine like I normally do. And again, then I would make, I could just make one pass, and you'll see that it just holds up well by itself. Then on top of that, you can put another coating on top of it if you'd like. But most people just tend to leave that section the way it is, because it's already set, it's already burned in. You don't have to do anything to it. When you go over it with a polyurethane, yes, you do seal it, but you also make it dull. So it really depends if you want it to really stand out, or do you want it to be overly protected. That's an individual person's choice. Everybody does it differently. Again, I'm not going to say which one way is better than the other, because it's different for everybody. So again, this is a your preference thing and everything else of that. You know, hopefully this is showing correctly and everything else of that. You can see it burning through, so again, you can see the smoke coming forward and everything else, so that it just doesn't want to. Again, this is multiple layers that most people don't have to deal with when they're doing this. Again, on the other, in this case here, I'm trying something different. This is going to be for a bathroom application, so it has more coats on it than it would be if I was setting this for, let's say, an outside living room, or something that's going to be put on a blank hallway wall. But in a bathroom environment, we already know that there's a lot of moisture around, showers, sink, everything else of that. So this has multiple layers on it to make sure that it actually goes through. Now again, this will be the first pass. I have to do another pass on top of this to make sure that it actually burns in really well. Yes, I know right now. So now again, the sun's coming through and everything else. So that, yeah, I usually have do this late at night for that, but of course I'm doing this on stream to make sure everybody has a chance to do this. Now again, I'm using lightburn. There's other softwares you can use to do this and everything else. So that it really depends on the person. Everybody's different on what they want to use. Again, I use lightburn because it's just easier for me, and even though I'm using it in a non-traditional way by not using the actual connection in, meaning that I physically have it connected from my computer to my laser, because again, mine is a 3D printer attached to the laser. It's a different application. So again, this is what I do and everything like that. Now I'm just going to show you a couple of other things that I've already made. Open. Again, this is another one that I made and everything else. And again, the hardest part is the actual, make sure you have to measure your inside border and make sure that it's correct. Again, whatever that is and everything else like that. Now you can change it over to, people use it differently and everything else like that. Some people like it in inches. Again, you can put it in inches. You can have it, but most have it in millimeters because a lot of this stuff is done in millimeters. It's just the way it is. Now, again, I'm using the higher base numbers because that's where I've been taught, and most people I've used says, you look at it, it says one's built for a CO2 and one's built for a diode. This is a diode laser and not a CO2 laser. So since it's not a CO2 laser, I don't use the CO2 settings. If you have a diode laser, which most of us have, that's what you're going to use. Okay, first pass is done. Let's go for the second pass right now. I'll be right back in 1 second. Now this is the second pass. Now again, you're going to see it's going to be much different now. You'll see that once it's already made its mark and everything else, so that now you can see how much deeper it's actually burning through. It's already burned through the first layer, again, multiple layers and everything else, so that now it's going to go through it and you'll see a much different. Now I can always go for a third pass and everything else, so that if I feel that it's not deep enough, we will see once this pass is going and everything else, so that now again, you can really tell the difference in how it looks. So that it's slowing down a little bit. The picture's a little bit unfortunate, but it's one of those things that's really easy to mess up. You don't want to touch it, is what I'm gonna tell you. If you're making multiple passes, what you want to do is once you lay it down, once you have it stuck to your base, you can use different things to stick it down. You do not want to move it. If you're going for an additional pass and everything else of that, you can have it already set up again inside of here to do multiple passes. Oops, sorry, close this. You can have it set up in here for multiple passes, meaning you can have it go for 2 passes right away. You can change the burn speed and everything else of that. But again, I like to go over it once, look at it first to see, do I need another pass? Now again, if it's not with a lot of paint on it, like this right here, this is 1 pass. That was with 1 pass only. I didn't have to do anything else with it. It's the same settings that I'm using on a lightburn. Nothing has changed. This is with 1 pass. But the more you put on it, meaning that, let's say if I put 3 coats of water-based shellac on this, or water-based varnish, whatever you want to put on this for that. For every additional coat that you put on it, most likely you want an additional pass, or you're going to lower the speed so it'll burn slower through it. Now again, the reason why I didn't lower the speed down there and everything else, is because you can have a tendency to burn it, because tape burns. It's one of the things, if you can put an outline on everything else of that and then go to it, it won't burn through it. But if you don't, you literally can make fire. We don't want to make fire. That's one of the things you don't want to do. You don't want to make fire and have things for that. Now, you absolutely want to make sure that you want to be around it. You want to make sure that you're in the area so you can actually look at it and make sure that it's not burning. If you see fire, you're going to see some smoke. Because again, that's the reason why you have some type of filtration system around to make sure everything is good. If you don't, it'll come out, charcoal. Or again, I've seen it situations where someone set up the numbers wrong and you have tape on it and fire starts. Now, I don't have the type of laser that it will cut off automatically if it senses fires and everything else of that. This is not that type of laser. Well, later on down the line, when I get one of those that has all the bells and whistles to it and everything else of that, which is great, I don't have that right now. That's a later on down the line issues. This is for more as a hobby for me, to make things like that for myself and for a few select friends or people that want to buy it. It's one of those things where you want to make this easy to go and everything else. Now again, you can see how much deeper it is on the second go around. Now again, I don't know if I'm doing the third, but I just wanted to get you guys an idea of what this is going to look like. I should have one that's 2 or 3 already made that I can show you, but hold on one second. Let me see if I get one that's already made. All right, I am back. Had to get the ones that I already have made. Okay. Now, this is what I'm saying, that you can have it in different colors. Notice that this one's in red. You're probably like, wait, let's go full screen for just a second, everything else of that. Wait, Warp, how did you get it to be in red? Wait, I thought that, yes, you can get it to be in red and everything else of that. Again, it's a little bit more difficult. You can see a little bit of bleed through in certain places where the tape didn't. That's the other thing. You have to make sure that your tape is firmly down. You have to be good quality tape that's going to stay on the location, but it also has to be that it can actually come up fairly easy without sticking down and everything else of that. Now again, I'm going to show you 2 different ones and you'll see what I mean by when you have a coating on it and when you don't. Okay. Now, this one has 2 layers on it, meaning that this was coated before time and then it burned through it. Now, again, you can see right now, this is another one that's made exactly the same way, with the difference being that this one has shellac on top of it. Now you see how it's shiny, all the areas that is shellacked and everything else. I mean that the black layer actually has a coat of shellac on it to protect it, versus this layer here that doesn't. Now, hopefully you can see the difference between the 2. Let's see, we turn it this way. You'll see that this one right here is much darker than this one here, but this one has more protection on it from getting ruined if something was to throw something on it and everything else. So that this has slightly more protection on it. So you have to ask yourself, which one do you want? Do you want the print that is darker with a little bit less protection on it, or do you want a print that's basically, it's still dark, don't get me wrong, different shades of light for that makes it still dark, but you're seeing the reflection off the light, because again, this one has no reflection to it because it doesn't have any shellac over the dark areas, whereas this one does. So again, this is what the difference between the two, so that way you'll know if you want to go with, again, the wood itself behind this is protected, but the engraving isn't, or do you want it to have it so you want protection on it. Now again, this really depends on the environment. If you have it in a section where it's not going to get wet, it's against the wall, this one of course is going to look better in all different kinds of light. This one here, again, is more protected for an environment that's a little bit more harsher, and you still get the best of both worlds. So again, we're gonna go back to the laser. You see it's burning through right now and everything else like that. And again, that's just literally how this works. So again, we weren't going to keep you guys too long. We wanted to just get you a good idea of how this works. You know, and you can just enjoy watching the burn through and everything else like that. This is something that love about this. We love to get it done and everything else like that. And yeah. So again, this is Warp on the 3. Stay warp out. Have fun. We're going to catch you guys on our normal stream on Sunday. But if you want to sit back and watch for a little while, we're going to just let this burn through. And we're going to go silent for a minute. And we'll be right back. We're back. Just wanted to check something under my desk, making sure my other air fan was on, so I didn't see it on it. So again, this is pass number 2. You can see how much darker it is and everything else. So that, again, the only reason why this is multiple passes like this is because of all the extra layers that are actually put on this. Normally it wouldn't be like this, and the other reason is because it's white. Lasers, or this type of laser, most of the time hates white. White reflects back so much that it makes it a lot more difficult to actually burn through than it does with any other color. So again, white is like, you can do it, but it doesn't actually like it. So again, you're seeing what I can rate and everything else. That you're seeing a couple of items and everything else. That this stuff will be going up on the Etsy store in a bit. Again, after the hurricane and everything else. That I'm just trying to get back into getting some inventory in before I even try to attempt to go back on Etsy with some of this stuff. It's just one of the things that some inventory got damaged, so I got to make new ones and everything else, and then throw the old ones out. Again, we're going through it and everything else, so that you can see it's much better on the second pass. Probably is going to need a third just because of the way it is and everything else, so that. But yeah, wanted to let you guys see it and everything else, so that before we hop off of here. But you can see it for yourself. So again, we'll go back to silent, and then from there you can watch the last bit of this get done. And then from there you'll see if it really needs to be a third pass.